And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. We'll look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network, also one of your co-hosts on the program. With me this week, as every week, is your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how you doing this week?
Doing well this week, Rich. Just trying to get through the heat wave we're having here in Southern California. You know, we've got all kinds of things going on: brush fires, wildfires, quarantine, and this incredible heat. I hear it's going to be like 113 degrees this weekend. So climate deniers, just take a few notes.
That is pretty hot. That is pretty hot. I'll say I'm in Seattle from broadcasting from home, obviously, and we're expecting a high of 83 today, which in Seattle is 113 in Los Angeles, basically. So nobody has air conditioning here.
It's all relative, Rich.
Let's dive into our story of the week here, and it comes from IT by Design. Now, you will know them if you're familiar with them. They are an outsourced provider of help desk assistance, RMM assistance, or network operations assistance, rather, and also outsourced staffing. But they, these are the three things that they do. They know how to manage people. They know how to manage help desks. They know how to manage network operations. One of the interesting things about covering the company through the years is that, they have a very large volume of best practices that they've accumulated over the years on these three specialties that they've cultivated. And what they announced this week, basically, is that they're essentially productizing that expertise. They've introduced a whole series of new offerings, some available now, some coming later this year, that will allow their MSP partners to take advantage of some of what they have learned about running a managed services business very effectively. So the main, the sort of flagship new announcement or new offering that they introduced this week is called Build It University, or Build IT University. This was announced, by the way, during their annual Build IT event. And so they're extending that brand into a year-round education platform for MSPs. It's going to include a peer group component. Now, there are peer groups available elsewhere in the industry. What's a little bit interesting about the Build IT U, as they call it sometimes, is this relatively wide-ranging series of courses that you can take in what they call the 9 disciplines that are essential to succeeding in managed services. So sales, marketing, leadership, finance, service delivery, et cetera. And some of the courses are taught by senior executives from vendors in the industry who IT by Design works with. So LionGuard, ConnectWise, I'm looking for some of the other names there, Rapid Fire Tools, SolarWinds, Datto, IT Glue. So sort of like a master class for MSPs there, which is kind of interesting. Coming as well is a service, sort of a consulting service that they're going to be offering called MSP Compass, which is going to enable people to create a 3 to 5 year blueprint for their business in terms of modernizing their tools, optimizing their processes, and really kind of embracing some of these best practices and putting them into effect from a long-term kind of perspective. And then they also have an application. This will actually be the first piece of software that they've ever offered before, that is going to help them kind of draw up a roadmap for workforce optimization. So again, they have a very rigorous sort of methodology they use at IT by Design for hiring people and enabling people to do their best work and managing those people. They've kind of put a lot of those lessons learned into a software application. They're making that available to MSPs so that if you want to create a plan and step yourself through that plan, you can. So it's kind of an interesting departure, if you will, or an interesting move for this company to take some of what they know from a best practices standpoint and actually turn that into what they are offering to MSP partners, above and beyond the core services that they've become known for.
And so valuable, Rich. I mean, I like to think that, I was part of the tip of the spear of that whole thought leadership, education component of helping enable partners to grow their MSP practices, with MSP University back in the day. So I really appreciate them, just carrying the torch and delivering much more value to their partners than simply the services that they provide, which absolutely have a lot of value. But now when you can teach these folks how to grow their businesses effectively, efficiently, profitably, and avoid making mistakes, and led by, a lot of the, industry vendor leaders, and the C-suite executives. I mean, that is, that's training and education and enablement that money can't buy. Like, you can't go out on the street and say, hey, can you, coach me for an hour or do a webinar for me and teach me these things? I mean, this is super, super awesome stuff. And I'm really, really happy to hear that IT by Design is really carrying the flag for enabling their partners to succeed in this manner.
So very interesting stuff. We'll keep an eye on that as it evolves. It sounds like there's more to come there as well. Now let's move on to your tip of the week. I mean, there are a lot of things that you as the manager of a managed services business can control, Eric, in terms of adopting some of these Build IT University best practices. There are also some things you're going to be talking about this week that maybe you shouldn't be controlling.
Absolutely, Rich. And again, ripped from the headlines, speaking with a partner, just yesterday, that called in for, just a quick consulting call with me, which, I'm happy to provide to partners, and just to learn a little bit about their business and their challenges, and see if there's a way for me to offer some guidance or advice or perspective. And it became clearly apparent to me that the biggest challenge that this particular partner has is in relinquishing control. And so this week's tip of the week is, you have to relinquish control in order to grow. If you are obsessed with every infinitesimal detail of how your business operates and have your fingers in every platform, even though you may not even have a responsibility or role in that platform. The example that this particular partner gave me was, I don't even have anything to do with tickets anymore, but I cannot help myself from jumping into the ticket queue and just seeing how many tickets are every 15 minutes. And I'm thinking, all right, take a deep breath. Think of how much time, if that's just one example of your, and I understand, right, the need to feel like we cannot make a mistake, that we want to mitigate our risk, but there is also, anything in extreme is preventing you from allowing your team to be fully responsible for the roles and the tasks that you hired them to do and are compensating them for, and preventing you from taking that more strategic leadership position. And instead of investing time in the minutia and the details, allow your team to do those things so that you can focus your time strategically in doing the things that only you can do, right? Not things that everybody else can do. And another tip, Rich, expect and welcome mistakes, okay? You cannot be afraid to relinquish control because you think your team may make mistakes. You want them to make mistakes. You want them to make mistakes quickly and learn from those mistakes so that they don't happen again, and you can course correct. But don't allow the pursuit of perfection to get in the way of perfectly good or even excellent, and focus your time on what the things that only you can do, to grow the business, and trust your team, and hire the folks that fit within your cultural ideal and meet your values and deliver excellent service, and start delegating and truly empower them to make decisions and to fail, but fail fast, so you can help them recover.
Yeah, lots of good stuff in there. I mean, and this goes to the whole, working in the business versus working on the business kind of concept. If you're spending your day monitoring what everybody is doing at that level of detail, there's not going to be a whole lot of time left over to think strategically about where to take the business, to work on growing the business. So that right there indicates you're probably not spending your time in the optimal way. The other thing, and I don't know if this applies to this particular client, but I mean, if you put yourself in the position of the employees, nobody really enjoys working for a micromanager. So if you're in the ticket queue all the time and then following up with people and telling them you're not doing this ticket exactly the way that it should be done, in my opinion, and so on, that can get sort of tedious for people after a while. You're going to have a hard time retaining your best employees if you're a micromanager. And it just, it kind of reminds me that the first time in my career when I was responsible for managing other people, the single best piece of advice I got from my manager at the time was the hardest thing for you to do initially is going to be accepting the fact that the people who work for you aren't going to do things exactly the way you would do them. And that's okay. As long as the outcome is correct, how they get there doesn't have to be identical to the way you do it. You have to learn to relinquish control, as you're saying, Eric. Let them do the job the way that they need to do it. If they make mistakes along the way, course correct them, but don't feel like you've got to be looking over everyone's shoulder all the time, and enforcing your very particular approach to everything, because it's going to be all you do.
Yeah, it's a valuable lesson that you learned from your mentor there, because, our job as leaders is to replace ourselves. And, there's no way to replace yourself if you can't relinquish that control and empower your team to do what they do best. And again, we're all wired differently. So, and I do a lot of team building and things like that using DISC behavioral profiling. And one of the takeaways that I give to my clients is to let them know that, you don't ever expect anyone to do something exactly the way you would do it, as you said, Rich, because they don't have your experience, your background, your expertise. Just give them the objective, right? This is great leadership, right? Coach and mentor them, give them the objective that you'd like them to achieve, and let them figure out the best way to do that, right? And have check-ins and guide them along the way. But that you're building leaders, and in order to replace yourself and empower them, this is the direction that you need to go. Otherwise, you've just probably created the worst job for yourself than anybody would ever want. You to be constantly just, trying to track all of these little details that then that becomes that, I can't see the forest, for the trees kind of situation that you end up in.
Yeah, the worst possible job for you and maybe for the people working for you. So something to keep in mind and avoid. And that leaves us with time for just one more story this week. And, in this age of Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, we're all online doing meetings all the time. And, we have all heard about, maybe even experienced somebody inappropriate, let's say underdressed for a meeting, and inadvertently revealing this in front of the camera. I'm starting to wonder if people who have gotten used to attending meetings with, no pants on or something like that, for example, just kind of forgetting where the lines are between that experience and the rest of their life. And the reason I say this is because there was an incident in Tennessee recently where a 61-year-old gentleman pulled into the drive-through lane at a Taco Bell completely naked in his car. And he said, "Hey, my clothes are in the wash. I didn't know it was illegal to drive naked." The police kind of filled him in on this information as they were taking him off to the station. Can't help but wonder, Eric, if this is somebody who maybe is doing naked meetings all day long. What's the difference?
Yeah, I just got, one phrase for that particular individual, and others that feel like, we need to go out and get stuff in less than appropriate attire. And that term is DoorDash, people. Just DoorDash. They'll deliver it to you. Okay.
They'll leave it on the other side of the door, and quite honestly, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. Good tip. Good tip. Second tip of the week, Eric. I appreciate it. And that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. If you like the show, you want to keep up with the new episodes as they become available, maybe watch some old ones you missed, best thing to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe there. Make sure you also click that little bell icon if you want to get notifications when the new episodes go up. To read more about all those new offerings from IT by Design, just keep up with what's happening in the industry, get great business growth advice for your company, go to channelpronetwork.com every day, because we've got great new content for you there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, your destination should be ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. Thanks once more for joining us. We're going to be back in a week with another episode for you. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.